Hi there, welcome to Across the Balkans. I'm Nafisa Latic. The Albanian port town of Shenjin is preparing to host migrants arriving from Italy after the deal between Albanian Prime Minister Rama and his Italian counterpart Giorgia Meloni. The process was expected to start in August, but has been postponed for later this year. While the processing center for the migrants has been completed, the camp on a former Air Force base, where they will be kept until their fates are decided, is still being built. The arrival of migrants will begin once the camp is fully operational. Concerns by some Albanians about the country's readiness to host migrants are balanced by the potential economic benefits. Katarina Petrovic reports from Shenjin in Albania.
This is the camp that is meant to be central to Europe's strategy to manage migration, processing and holding migrants before they reach EU shores. Shenjin will handle thousands yearly, streamlining asylum applications while easing pressure on EU borders. However, critics warn that this method could compromise oversight, leading to human rights issues, corruption and trafficking. In the midst of the unknowns about the deal between Italy and Albania, those in Shenjin who spoke with us were reluctant to share personal details, with those opposing it insisting on hiding their identities.
Përfiton që edhe një spec në shit, një domate, një qimqakez, një paket cigare, një naftë që merre makina tyre, si ato të karabinjerisë, çfarë është jetë, lëvizja është kjo, populli, në te populli hyn ky lek.
Po ka përfitime, shumë përfitime ekonomike. Rritet fuqia blerëse, ka shteti përfitimet ekonomike të tija. Punësohen njerëzit në përkampe, ke parasysh shqiptar, italian, kështu që është një gjë shumë e mirë.
While some see economic opportunities, the agreement has also raised significant concerns about transparency and who truly benefits. The center is secured with 5-meter-high walls, reflecting this deal's secrecy.
Nes na ka pyet njëri dhe nuk ka konsultu kërkush me ne, përveç kampit në Shenjin të porti, ka dhe kampin Gjader që shumë banor janë mundu me kundërshtu, për nuk e ka një gju asnjëri këtë pjesë për me marrë mendimin e banorëve. Po patjetër se këtë gjë prandaj e kanë basi Italia dhe Shqipëria për me pas interesat e vete politike.
Behind me is the Migrant Processing Center, the front line of the agreement between Italy and Albania, where the fate of the migrants will be decided in a country that isn't their destination, but a temporary holding ground. This deal represents a significant shift in Europe's migration management, with Italy delegating part of the process to a non-EU nation.
Nuk jena fare dakord për pjesën e kampeve, për vetëm arsye se Shqipëria është vend aq i vogël që nuk është në gjendje me përballu edhe kampet dhe njerëzit që nuk e njohin kulturën shqiptare, aq më tepër asnjë nuk i njohim.
While the goal is to alleviate EU border pressures, concerns persist about Albania's capacity to handle such a complex task within the proposed 28-day timeline. Mentor Kikia, a veteran journalist, views the camp as a political move, not a practical solution.
Në kampin e Shenjinit do të përpunohen, sipas marrëveshjes, jo më shumë se 3.000 persona. 3.000 persona janë shumë pak përballë 10 mijëra njerëzve me cilët që përplasen çdo vit në brigjet italiane. Qeveria shqiptare konsideron që klandestinët e huaj do të përpunohen vetëm brenda një muaji, por askush nuk beson që kjo mund të ndodhë brenda kësaj kohe të shkurtër.
After initial assessments at Shenjin, migrants are transferred to the Gjader facility, a former airbase, for longer-term housing.
Në mënyrë u justifikua gatishmëria e qeverisë shqiptare për të mbështetur pa diskutim publik dhe pa konsideruar vendimarrje të tjera institucionale dhe pa pyetur edhe opinionin publik. Kësaj pyetje duhet t'i përgjigjem me një apo dy pyetje të tjera. Përse duhej ky kamp në Shqipëri dhe mbi të gjitha sa ndihmon ky në zgjidhjen e problemit që ka Italia me klandestinët. Dhe përgjigjja është, ajo që do ndodhi në Shenjin nuk zgjidh asgjë në problemin e madh me të cilin përballet Italia.
Andi Tepelena, a cultural manager and activist, who participated in numerous protests strongly opposing the deal, warns of deeper issues and the risks of isolating migrants leading to exploitation.
Mendoj se një nga problematikat më të mprejta të kësaj marrëveshje janë gjendja e të drejtave të njerëzit. Do të thonë emigrantët që do merren nga do vinë nga vendet që detra të mesdheut, kudo ndodhen dhe fakti si do trajtohen në këto kampe. Pra, sipas marrëveshjes do ndahen veçmas ata që janë gratë shtatzëne, fëmijët e tjerë, nuk do merren meshkuj që janë të moshës 18 vjeç. Pasu këto sfida le themi të trafikut të qenëve njerëzore, të emigrantëve, jemi vetë vende emigrant, që kemi bërë të trafik të emigrantëve shqiptarë, po dhe të huaj. Domethënë, mafia lokale mezi pret që të merr me këtë lloj trafiku sepse i sjell shumë të ardhurë.
The future of these migrants and whether this approach truly addresses Europe's migration crisis remains uncertain.
Dorsa në Itali opozita vendase e priti edhe më keq, duke e akuzuar kryeministren Meloni se është duke bërë marrëveshje me një qeveri të korruptuar dhe me një kryeministër të korruptuar, dhe për këtë arsye kanali televiziv Rai 3 u investua për prodhimin e disa dokumentarëve që lidheshin me Shqipërinë dhe me kriminalitetin në Shqipëri dhe duke ekspozuar lidhjet e politikës me krimin dhe lidhjet e politikanëve të lartë italian.
28 ditë, por me sa ka eksperjenca e përjetuar në Itali, to procedura marrin me muaj të tërë. Që pa mund të 28 ditë të trajtohen gjendja e këtyre azilanëve. Pa çfarë do ndodhi me këta pastaj, nëse nuk do merr një vendim, nuk do kuptohet nga do vinë.
As the Shenjin Center opens, the debate grows. Will it solve the crisis or shift the burden to Albania? Katerina Petrovic, across the Balkans, Shenjin, Albania.
Let's cross now to Italy, to Palermo. Valerio Bordonaro is there for us. He's an international affairs analyst. Great to have you with us on TRT World again, Valerio. As we are coming to final date, we are approaching to the date of the opening of these centers. We've been waiting for it for such a long time. They keep postponing it. Are you optimistic that this deal will actually work in practice?
Well, maybe the deal could work. The number of migrants that are expected to be hosted in Albania is not enormous. It's 3,000 persons per month for a maximum of 36,000 per year. So it may work practically. People may arrive to the centers and be there for a certain amount of time. The point that we have to wonder if will it be enough, the 28 days that law allows to keep people at frontier and borders? And the second one is this agreement and the centers that Italy and Albania built up, will it answer the need of tackling illegal migration? I'm not optimistic about that. So maybe they will start working, but they will not answer the request and the goal of the Italian government to tackle illegal migration.
What we are hearing from Shenjin, we've seen that report from the port town, seems like everything has been done really thoroughly. Everything has been checked several times, and there's a lot of Italian police officers over there already checking. It seems like that both countries are really trying to make this work.
Well, yes. The point is that the total amount that is expected to be spent for this 5 years project is 650 million euros. Out of this amount, 250, so more than a third, is expected to be spent for travel expenses of Italian officials. So this means that, yes, there's a lot of effort put on this project, on the development of this agreement. The point is that if this was made in Italy, maybe we would have spent way less than that. So there will be, for sure, plenty of carabinieri, plenty of Italian officials from the Ministry of Interior, maybe from the Ministry of Justice. But the point is, will it be the right thing for the objective that the government has in mind? I'm not sure of that.
Yeah, I do wanted to ask you that actually while preparing for this interview. Why not building, if you have all this money and the EU support in some degree, why not building these centers somewhere in Italy? Why spending so much money and going all the way to Albania? And I can just imagine how difficult will it be for Italians to run the center in another country.
Yes, and running it according to Italian laws. So this is very peculiar. Anyway, we have other examples in history and in very recent history about this phenomena, and normally it's right-wing governments who try to hide the migration phenomena. We can mention Australia and Papua New Guinea. We can mention Israel and Rwanda, and we can mention UK and Rwanda. And the new Labour government has recently scrapped the agreement. The point is typical of right-wing government to try to hide this phenomena that is very difficult to tackle, is very difficult to manage. So the attitude of this conservative or nationalist government is trying to hide the phenomena. So putting the center in Albania will remove 36,000 migrants from Italy, and the phenomena will be less visible.
You mentioned the government. I do want to ask you, because Giorgia Meloni won the office by promising to tackle migration in Italy. After this deal and everything that she has said about her plans on how to do it, did her image or improved in Italy in some way? How did Italians react to the solution that she wants to for this problem?
Well, Italians know very well that the promised solution is and was impossible. So the original idea of this government, and it comes from Matteo Salvini as well as Giorgia Meloni, was to block the northern shore of Africa. Of course, this is impossible. We don't have this kind of navy. We cannot engage in this kind of activity. So the naval block of the northern shore of Africa was an idea of the government that was very useful for electoral campaign. What are we doing? What are they doing today? They are trying to hide the phenomena that is always the same. I can tell you that in Italy we are no longer talking about these things. We know that with this government or the next one and the previous ones, it will always be the same. We have to face an enormous global phenomena that is bringing people from the south of the world to the north of the world. Italy is at the forefront, and Sicily is the first region in this regard.
You mentioned the word impossible. There is something that we've heard from Albanian analysts in Katarina's story. They've said it's impossible to process migrants in 28 days. So they started from this point. They said, what if the process is not finished after 28 days? What then? Do you agree with them? Is it possible to do that if it wasn't possible in Italy to do it in 28 days?
Well, I'm not sure of that. I think it's impossible too. We have seen that normally the process this kind of information regarding migrants are very difficult because it's difficult to prove, for example, their age or the country where they come from exactly, if they are entitled to get international protection, if they have the status of asylum seeker. So it takes normally longer than 28 days. The point is that we can keep these people at the border, so in a sort of retention center, no more than 28 days. The experience that we have also in Italy is that it's very difficult to do this kind of processes in less than 28 days. We know also our judiciary system is not that fast. I can imagine that in this case the difficulties are more than that. There's a the language barrier. Lawyers are invited to assist their clients from remote. So it's going to be very difficult. And you can imagine there are also maybe health problems related to the travel that these migrants had. And psychological support that is needed in this kind of situation. So it's more difficult than in Italy. So why would we take more than average? Again, it sounds impossible.
Well, it's imminent that it will happen, as Giorgia Meloni recently mentioned, end of the year. So we are waiting to see. We went a couple of times actually to the port, hoping to see what will happen. That's why I've said it looks like everything has been done so thoroughly, and they keep waiting for every single detail to be ready. The thing is, this is the reality. And what do you think is the worst thing that could happen? Like, I mean, we started on a positive note. Let's hope it will work for these numbers. But what is the worst thing that could go wrong?
Well, they could be sent back to Italy to other facilities because they cannot stay at the frontier more than 28 days. So this is in a normal country, this is what will happen. The process is not over in the 28 days, so they are sent back to Italy to go to other facilities. This is, let's say, the better scenario in the worst case scenario. But the worst that can happen is that these people are kept illegally in Albania for more than 28 days. And at that point, of course, we are just hiding again the fact that we are not able to manage the phenomena.
If this doesn't work, what other solutions, I have time for one more question. What other solutions do you think will Italy try or use? The ones that she tried with the EU before didn't work, with redistributing migrants throughout the continent. Well, that didn't work. What if this doesn't work? What then? I mean, many Italians would want this finally to be controlled and put to put at least in some kind of standardized framework.
Well, government should be open to its citizens and say that the phenomena cannot be stopped. So we can try to manage it the better way possible. So it means that we have to work with the European partners for the redistribution. That is the only viable solution. And then we have to look for what is the kind of migration that we need, because migration will keep on happening. So the Italian law about migration should be more open and maybe allow some form of migration that nowadays is almost impossible to come to Italy if not for study purposes, work purposes, or travel or leisure. So we should create a migration law that allows people to enter in order to answer to the Italian needs of labor force. And on the other hand, of course, working with the EU and strengthening the concept of a EU frontier is the most important thing for Italy. And it's important that the government works with the EU institutions. That's the only leverage that we have.
Valerio Bordonaro, thank you again for being our guest. I appreciate your time.